Hi there again, Matt Hamilton, author of Through Travel on Air, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian. Welcome back to my online readings. Today it's chapter 7, which is called A Yankee Moment. I think I'll just start reading and then come back and talk in a few more minutes there. A Yankee Moment. One feature that all Canadian backpackers have in common is that every one of us travels with at least one of our nation's flags sewn on our packs. More often than not, a Canadian traveler will have the maple leaf plastered not only on their packs, but also on every conceivable piece of clothing they own. There are loads of Canucks who have gone so far as having the red flag tattooed on their bodies. I was surprised to discover that we were the only nation that had this identification ritual. When I bought my travel gear, there was a massive barrel full of Canadian flags of all sizes located next to the cash register. I thought a flag was a part of the traveling package. I thought it was as essential as the pack itself. I bought two. However, it didn't take long to figure out why we unfailingly display the flag. It's not that we are more patriotic than other nations. We wear the flag because we don't want to be mistaken for Americans. And our desire to clarify our nationality is not because of our dislike of the United States. Rather, it is a result of the rest of the world's obvious aversion and prejudice towards the Yanks. It's amazing. I mean, people will meet me and they'll hear my accent and they'll say, "Oh, hey, where in the States you from?" And I'll say, "Actually, you know what, I'm from Canada." And immediately their reaction is, "Oh, really? Where in Canada you're from?" And they're just friendly, receptive. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, we wear that the flag on our pack to let everybody know we're a Canuck, and it really has made a massive difference. Now, I want to let you know something. Canadians, we live in that North American bubble as well, and every now and then you will meet a Canadian who flies off the handle if you call them a Yank. They'll be insulted. Well, if you meet one of these people, give them a slap for me, because I hate to break it to you and to those Canadians as well, but we are the brightest. We live in that North American bubble and have been blocked out to a lot of the ways of the world. And you know, I didn't quite realize it until I got out there and started learning, and through a lot of experience and through trial and error, I discovered that although I was educated, I was not intelligent. And it was through these experiences that I gained some wisdom. Now, one of the moments that really opened my eyes to this North American bubble, as opposed just to the American bubble, was when I decided to go visit some friends in Austria. On my way up to the Czech Republic on this 40-hour train ride, we stopped in Vienna for an hour, and I got off the train and went and had a beer at the pub, and then got back on and went to the Czech Republic. Well, a week or so later, I was trying to figure out where to go next after Stacy had flown home, and I had met these two girls in Amsterdam who were Austrian, and they said, "Come visit anytime you want," and they'd given me their address, and it was a place called Wien. So I went to the train station and bought a ticket to Wien. Having never been there before, never even heard of Wien, to be honest with you. And we'll pick up the story of my arrival in Wien. As I walked from the train into Wien's arrival station, I was struck with an overwhelming feeling of familiarity. It was the strongest case of déjà vu that I'd ever experienced. Then it hit me. The train station in Wien was identical to the train station in Vienna. The more I walked through the station, the eerier it became. The two stations were impossible to tell apart. The infrastructure was the same. The color scheme was the same. The shops and restaurants were the same. I know I had been delirious when I had ambled through Vienna's station, but I could swear that even the woman who worked the flower stand looked familiar to the flower lady here in Wien. Still amazed at the similarities between the two stations, I went outside. My mouth fell open. I felt as though I'd stepped into some freaky episode of The Twilight Zone. Even though I knew I was in Wien, the city in front of me looked identical to Vienna. This was getting a little too weird. Maybe I could understand the Austrians using an efficient, established blueprint for all train stations, But to duplicate an entire city plan? I couldn't decide if these people were bizarre or simply uncreative. I assumed that Austrians subscribe to the "if it ain't broke, then don't fix it" philosophy. Still baffled by my surroundings, I got into a taxi and gave the driver Sabine's address. It wasn't until we drove past the exact same pub that I had visited 10 days earlier that I began to figure out where I might be. There was the slim possibility I had either boarded the wrong train or got off at the wrong station. I didn't think this was the case, but to be sure I asked the driver if I was in Wien. As a taxi driver, I'm sure he had been subjected to countless idiotic questions from tourists. This one was nothing special, and without taking his eyes off the road, he nodded yes. I was now 99% positive what was going on. However, to remove the iota of doubt, I swallowed my pride and asked the taxi driver another question. I asked him if we were also in Vienna. He gave me a look that suggested he wasn't completely sure if I came from this planet. It was a gaze that said he had heard a lot of stupid questions over the years, but this particular comment was up there with the dumbest. He didn't need to answer. I was also in Vienna. Wien and Vienna were one and the same. I was ignorant that Wien was the German translation of Vienna. Being the clueless traveler that I was, I made the ridiculous assumption that the mad city planners of Austria had designed the blueprint for an ultra-city and had implemented it throughout the country. So it's not just Americans that represent the stupidity of North America. Canadians as well can be a wee slow on the uptake. And it's true, we can be. I actually had a friend who was hitchhiking here in Canada. He was from South Africa, and this Canadian guy picked him up and said, "Oh, so where are you from?" My friend said, "South Africa," and the guy nodded and said, "All right, I'm not sure where that is." So my friend Sean said, "Well, you've got Africa, and at the southern tip is South Africa." Canadian driver went on for a while and said, "You know, I'm not sure where Africa is." How do you explain where a continent is if you don't know where one is in the first place? It's baffling, and this guy was Canadian. But nonetheless, we're all born with this same gray matter, and it's up to us to put ourselves in these situations and take the lessons from it. Anyways, that's my little yank moment there, or my first of certainly many. If you're interested in finding more about the book, Through Travel and Error, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian, have a gander at my website, madmaddiesworld.com, or Google the title of my name and you should have a smorgasbord of options of where you can pick up a copy. Thanks for coming out. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week with Chapter 8. Take care. Bye-bye.